Ruts are part of life. I think that it's necessary to accept that idea in order to actually go through them. The tricky bit though is that some ruts are easier to overcome and others are really hard to. So a couple of months ago, I found myself in exactly that place. I was in a rut for like 2 years, and it stopped being about giving myself grace and living through it, and it became more about this feral need to actually force myself out of it. And not to put the blame on others. But my rut wasn't only about me, it was also about my inability to deal with a life without a fixed sleeping schedule/pattern. So having life with a toddler means some mornings I was up at 5 a.m., other mornings I was up at almost 9 a.m. And nights became as unpredictable as well, not only the evenings, but like the night time. Sometimes getting up at 2 a.m., sometimes having a completely normal night, sometimes being up all night long to deal with teething or sickness or something else. And this personally completely disrupts my workflow, my energy levels, and just makes me feel like I'm a zombie all the time. So in 2025, my word of the year, more than, specific goals that I want to achieve, but I want to concentrate everything I do this year around one word, and that is structure. I really need to reclaim some structure and control back into my life, and the big part of it are routines. So first of all, with no 2 days looking alike, I decided I had to focus on something foundational, something that I could probably control the most of all. So I wanted to build a single habit that would work independently of how unpredictable life was. And for me, that was definitely setting my alarm clock back to 6 a.m. again, independently of how, good or bad the previous night was. But once again, I wanted to give myself some grace. So that meant that I was setting my alarm clock for 6 a.m. I was getting up at 6 a.m., but I didn't have anything planned in the beginning of what I would do after 6 a.m. Sometimes it literally meant staring at a wall. I'm not even kidding. Other times it meant reading while I was sipping my coffee. Other times, if my husband was also up with me, it meant having a nice chat or conversation with him during breakfast. So I really didn't want to put myself through the stress of picking a list of habits I had to go through at 6 a.m. I just wanted to make sure I was up at that time. So that one anchor habit became my touchstone. It gave me a sense of accomplishment first thing in the morning, which set the tone for a more intentional day. It became easier to go from that and incorporate other habits during that stretch of me time, like reading, planning, having breakfast, actually sitting down. For some people, having rigid and really disciplined routines is the way to go. And it's actually what I also personally prefer as well, because I feel like doing the same thing at the same time, in the same way, consistently is what helps me build those routines. But with a toddler in the mix, that's literally impossible. So I did have to take a step back and analyze how can I have a more flexible routine while also keeping the same sense of consistency and discipline along the way. So this meant that instead of scheduling my entire day down to the minute, which was what I did before, I built routines around blocks of time. So for instance, my morning block right now just means 4 simple things: skincare, coffee, breakfast, and reading. It doesn't matter the order in which these things happen as long as I can check those 4 things off my list at the end of my morning block. Same thing happens with my evening block. I want to tidy up, I want to read to my son, and I want to read for myself. It doesn't matter the order of these 3 things as long as I finish the day knowing we all read and knowing my house is at least clean. This approach gave me structure without the guilt of not sticking to a strict schedule. It was about progress and not perfection. So parenthood kind of started giving me this idea that we always constantly have to deal with the unexpected. So I decided to bring those insights into my productivity routine as well. So right now I plan for chaos. One of the best tricks I learned was keeping what I call a chaos toolkit in hand. So this is a list of quick tasks I can tackle in 5 to 10 minutes, even if I'm exhausted or if I'm feeling sick or completely overwhelmed at the end of the day. So for me, this means, for instance, responding or organizing emails or my work inbox, doing a quick cleanup around the house, so for instance, at least kitchen and bathrooms, and making sure there's some sort of meal ready for the next day. These small wins help me feel productive even on the wildest days. And when I'm trying to get on track again, having this foundation ready, so clean house, clean inbox, and everyone fed, at least makes me feel like I'm not drowning in work. Okay, so keeping up with the chaos mindset, every single week, usually on the weekends, on a Sunday evening, I like to look back at my week and be like, what worked? What didn't work? What needs to be readjusted? This weekly audit became a ritual that helped me continuously refine my routines. It also gives me permission to let go of things that aren't serving me, which honestly is incredibly freeing. Sometimes it means moving some habits around, so perhaps a workout that previously made sense in the morning only makes sense in the evening now, because something shifted in my son's nap schedule or sleep patterns, or maybe I should shorten my morning routine and sleep for an extra half an hour because he's teething, and sometimes the most productive thing you can do is actually rest. When life is chaotic, you really need to take a step back and be like, there are actually a lot of victories I should celebrate in my day, and I shouldn't only focus on the big achievements. So right now, when I think about all the things that happened during the day, I like to pat myself on the back a bit more. So, did I fold the laundry? Celebration. Did I cook a homemade meal? Celebration. Did I have inbox zero at the end of the day? Celebration. So even the small things I took for granted, right now, I like to think that they are wins. And instead of feeling down for not doing more, I try as much as possible to shift the mindset and be happy with the things that I've actually done. Then one of the most effective things I did to rebuild structure was also establishing quarterly goals. And instead of overwhelming myself with ambitious plans, I focused on small incremental changes that help me regain control one step at a time. Each quarter, I choose specific areas to work on, whether it's creating better morning routines, going back to a solid social media posting schedule, or ensuring my reading goals are aligned. Then I break down these goals into tiny little habits I think I can stick to. So one of my 2025 big and overwhelming goals is decluttering the entire house, which right now means around 10 minutes of decluttering, every day. 10 minutes isn't a lot. Sometimes it's a drawer or it's a cabinet or it's a box, and it really sounds and looks underwhelming when you look at it that way, but my house has never been cleaner than since I started doing this regularly, because these incremental changes, they add up to a lot. So regaining structure in my life wasn't about perfection. It was about creating a system that works for me and my unpredictable days. By anchoring myself with small habits, building flexible routines, planning for chaos, and celebrating progress, I found my way out of the rut and into a life that felt more manageable and fulfilling. And speaking of nonlinear success, do you know what's nonlinear? Your career. On average, your career spans 80,000 hours, and that's 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year for 40 years. This is a huge amount of time and your biggest opportunity to make a difference. So isn't it worth planning carefully? If you're in a position to use your career to make a difference but feel like you're not quite hitting the mark, there's good news. You don't have to become a doctor or a teacher or a charity worker to make an impact. There are so many high-impact paths you may not even know about. And that's where 80,000 hours comes in. There are nonprofits dedicated to helping you build a career that's fulfilling, impactful, and aligned with solving some of the world's most pressing problems. If you visit 80,000hours.org, you can access their free research and tools. And this includes problem profiles, where you can discover the most pressing global challenges today, career reviews where you can explore impactful career paths tailored to your skills and interests, and decision-making tools. And here's the best part, everything they offer is literally completely free. You can head to the custom link in the description box below to get started with their in-depth career guide, where you'll learn what makes for a high-impact career, get fresh ideas for impactful career paths, and create a practical plan to take action. By signing up, you'll also gain access to the 80,000 Hours newsletter, which has a lot of different tips and tons of advice to help you find the best career for yourself. And of course, that at any time you can click a button and unsubscribe the newsletter. So click the link below to start planning a career that's meaningful, fulfilling, and helps solve some of humanity's biggest challenge. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.